Welcome to Evo Lounge. My name is Brooke McCarthy. When lockdown started in March, it felt like the entire world shut down. And here in Vancouver, that also meant the film industry. In this episode, I'm speaking with Rob Hunt, a filmmaker, and about how he got started in the industry and what it's like filming during the pandemic.
Hi, I'm Rob Hunt. I do a lot of different things. Professionally, I'm a member of the International Cinematographers Guild, and I'm a camera assistant. I float around. I did the trainee program and joined the guild. I think about 2 years ago, officially as a second, and I love that. It's great. I work with incredibly wonderful, diverse, and talented people on some of the shows that I love, like The Flash and Superman and Supernatural, and then on the side, I also write and direct and shoot my own short films, and I directed and DOP'd a web series called Standard Action, which was a fantasy comedy series. I did that before I got into the International Cinematographers Guild. It was actually part of my resume when I applied, but I didn't know anything about good filmmaking techniques when we made that, so it's very rough around the edges. But yeah, that's me. I make stuff, and yeah.
How did you get started in this? Was it always something that you thought you were going to get into, or did you just sort of...
It was weird actually. So when I was in high school, I wanted to be an actor, and I trained to be like a triple threat, which is like I learned dance, I was in 3 choirs, I was in 2 musical theater courses at the same time. I like took acting courses. I went to the University of Victoria and studied acting, and then for a summer job, I joined the army and was like, wow, I'm really not having realistic life expectations if I think I'm going to make a living being an actor. And so I went into computer science. I ended up being a programmer, and I was living in London doing like video presentation screens. And they were like, oh, we need some like sparkles. We need some animated sparkles to come over this ad that we're making. And I was like, okay. And they're like, no, we want you to make those animated sparkles. So I like was Googling it, and I found this website called Video Copilot, which is like all these tutorials on how to make things like that. But they also had tutorials on like how to make people's heads explode and like bugs under your skin. And so like, a week later, I'm in the parking lot of the programming company, like with a handy cam filming my buddy, and like we made our head explode. And like after that, I was like, oh, I want to make a short film. And we played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, so we were trying to shoot like fantasy comedy stuff, and it just escalated with all of our friends joining in, and then that sort of ended, and then I realized like I don't want to be a programmer anymore, so I got into corporate video, and then yeah, I got involved with the Cinematographers Guild and the trainee program, and that's sort of like a very long and convoluted way to get here. So
What have you been up to recently? Obviously,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
things hit the fan in March. So how did that sort of all change how your day-to-day went?
In February, I actually shot another new fantasy short film called The Power of the Wingman, which like was silly, and some LARPers lent me some armor, so it looks really good. But I was editing that, and was like, I remember when the pandemic happened, because I was like going in on a day call on Supernatural, and I get there and they're like, "Nah, we're not shooting today. We're packing everything up. We're all shut down for the like indeterminable future." So I helped them, like, like we helped pack up, and that was that. And then so I was lucky because I could edit. I spent like a month editing the short film, and I actually submitted that to a couple of festivals, and I won one from like a sketch comedy festival. I won like best comedy, international comedy, which was like amazing. I haven't won an award like that before. Um, and then I did a lot of writing. I like started reading about. I took a couple online courses on Udemy.com, Udemy, on Unreal Engine and cinematography, and like trying to do stuff like that. Not really to make anything right now, but just sort of to start expanding my knowledge base. And then film started back up, and so I got to actually see what like sets were like with masks and like all the PPE, I think what they're calling it,
Yeah.
and exactly what the procedures are, what professional film sets are. So immediately I turned around and like organized a film shoot, very small scale, with my friends. It was just like like 6 of us. And so I've done a couple shoots over the pandemic, but it's kind of nerve-wracking because like, man, I don't want to be known as the guy who caused like an outbreak or like things like that. So
Do you have like a favorite project that you've worked on in the past, or is there a favorite aspect of what you do that you like to do best or anything?
yeah, it's tough. Standard Action was really great. We made 42 episodes, and we didn't really know what we were doing. And it was like we got invited to PAX and free tickets to that. And I remember when I was making it, I was always like, oh man, I was so upset. Like, why aren't we big, and why can't we raise like 100,000 to make it? And now I realized that it was like it was less about the money and more about the fact that we still kind of had a core group of people who were all nerds, and like we played D&D and board, like we would go to these cons, right? And like we would just get hammered in one hotel room and play board games that we bought at the convention. Like we weren't going to these wild drug sex parties that people think film people do. We were like drinking and playing like, like I don't know, like what is it, Pandemic? Well, I guess that's kind of ironic. So and actually the power of the wingman, which is on my YouTube channel, it's kind of raunchy. It's like kind of Archer style humor. It's not very it's both very immature but also not for kids. It was just a camera test, and it like turned into more and more. We're like, first my friend who's a larper, he lent me some incredible armor, and then I cast there's a vampire in it, and I contacted a couple people, and they weren't interested in the role, which was kind of like, oh man, I guess maybe this is not a very good script, and it is just a camera test. But then I cast my friend Chelsea, who's like one of my buddies who comes over for karaoke, and she was so like, there are some things in it that she thought up, and they are so funny that I'm just like, yeah, it's just like I felt like so lucky that like she was a part of it, and like Reg was a part of it, and Mike who's the rogue in it. And it was just this camera test, and it just like even just editing it with the producer Ryan Moss, who helped me with it. Like we're just looking at this footage and like, god damn, this looks good. Like this is just supposed to be screwing around, but like, man, it looks good. So yeah, those are the things. Like standard action was really good. We even had a musical episode in third season, which I thought was really great. Yeah. So I mean, those are the two things that really stand out to me.
You mentioned D&D. Do you think that sort of like plays into like you're like loving a storytelling and all that?
Absolutely. In fact, I've been so when I was 20, I got into raves. When I was in university, I was going to these raves, and like, it could have been awful. I could have gotten to like meth. And instead I met these guys, and they were always going to this after party on Sunday, but it was only like 5 of them, and they would always never want to talk about it with anybody else. And I was like, guys, come on. Like, you always like, I want to go to your after party. You're always so excited about it. And I'm like, well, it's not what you think. And sure enough, it was Sunday D&D.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so that's how I got into D&D. And it's funny because like before long I was starting like to the dungeon mastering it, like running it, and like even just getting 5 people together and the organizational skills required to line up people's schedules, that has been huge in trying to organize shoot days. Like that is like, anybody who wants to be an AD or anything should just be a GM for a while, because you get really good at organizing people. Like, okay, who's free this day, who's like, okay, what about Tuesday at 7 p.m. and like, and it's like, we have long discussions about like plots, and like, we'll say things like, hey, like I don't mind if my character dies in the next 3 sessions, I just want it to be dramatic. So like we'll have discussions like that, or like, what if the villain's actually your dead wife, and it's like, oh yeah, that's like a huge ending to, like, oh, we'll just come up with these like crazy twists. And then it's basically the sessions are like role play improv sessions with some combat. So yeah, no, I think D&D is fantastic. I've always kind of wanted to like run D&D sessions with script ideas I have, and then like record them and just totally steal everything they come up with.
What would you say to someone who wants to like get into um like working in tech and film and stuff like that and making your own movies and stuff like that?
Um, okay, well, there's a couple things. One, get a camera and shoot and edit. Like just shoot and edit and rinse, repeat. Um, because I meet so many people that are afraid to suck. Be ready to suck, because you're gonna suck at the beginning, and that doesn't, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody sucked at the beginning. Like, I meet these guys, or I meet these people who go to film school, and then they've made one short film, and then they're always talking about the next project, but they're waiting for the $1 million to make it. And it's like, dude, no one's gonna give me $1 million. Like, just go make something. It doesn't need to be your $1 million project idea. You can keep that in like have your nice show bible and your pitch package, but go find something you can film easy. I work with people who are super pro, and like, they're still like, oh yeah, I shot this thing with my Sony A7 on the weekend, and like, it's all about like a good story, a good laugh, and like experience. And it's like, whatever the next project is, it's not one project, it's like many projects. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. When we were making standard action, I met people that were my heroes, that made like Journey Quest and the Gamers, and they were so complimentary of our work. They were like, oh, we love what you're doing, it's great. And then I meet these guys that have never made any films, and they'd have a long list of criticisms of everything we were doing wrong, and it's like, you don't even know what you're talking about. And I meet these guys who know what they're talking about, and they have nothing but praise. So like, that's the thing, is don't be afraid to suck, because like the people who really do it, they see that you're just out there, you're doing it, and that's the important part.
And someone's gonna like it.
Yeah, and it's some of it's like that fact that you went and did something is fantastic and good for you. Like any real person who's out there who has done the struggle knows that what you need to hear is like, good job, way to go, like pursue that and keep doing it. It's, you know, it's the process.
Thank you so much to Rob Hunt for chatting with me this week. If you want to see some of his work, you can check out The Power of the Wingman on YouTube. My name is Brooke McCarthy, and if you want to see more stuff like this, check out evolution1079.com.